got to get smaller, and that's what Dr. Paul speaks about. Now, we have guest speaker Murray Sabrin coming up in a minute or so. He's a professor at Ramapo College. He'll be giving a quick speech, and then, of course, Dr. Paul will be here. Now, like I said, I opened up the headquarters for Dr. Paul down in Hightstown, New Jersey, which is central to our state. I believe there's groups down in South Jersey that's very active with Dr. Paul. If you are here from South Jersey, give a yell. Yeah. We also have groups from North Jersey. If you're from North Jersey, give a yell. Yeah. Awesome. Tonight, Webster Hall, Dr. Paul will be there giving a speech. There'll be a lot of people. I think Peter Schiff will be speaking. Murray actually will be in New York as well. You're welcome to come. There are tickets for sale. If you can make it, that's great. The tickets are with the camera, the guy with the camera, Dustin. He's from New York. We're very excited for today. Today is a great day for New Jersey, and hopefully a great day for the United States. There are important things in life, and of course I always say that the things I believe in might not be what you believe in. So when you talk to friends and family about Dr. Paul, find out what's important to them. Okay, because we can talk about things that they don't get, or they don't understand, or they don't care about. So what's important is when you're speaking to friends, find out what's important to them. Okay, what's important to them could just simply be bringing the troops home. And there is one candidate out there that believes in bringing the troops home. So like I said, always ask someone, what do they believe in? Okay, because I tell my kids every night, believe in themselves, because that's the most important thing in life. Believing in yourself. Because in life, there's times when you're alone, and if you don't believe in yourself, you're going to have your problems. So now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Murray Sabrin. Murray Sabrin's a professor at Ramapo College. He ran for the U.S. Senate, and he also ran for governor of New Jersey. He was endorsed by the great Dr. Paul. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Murray Sabrin.
Are you ready to win the revolution? In the revolution. We all have a part to play in this great journey that Dr. Paul started more than 35 years ago when he first came to Congress. Before I get into Dr. Paul, I'd like to take you down memory lane of how I got here today, September 26, 2011. On August 6, 1949, my parents, my older brother, and I came to America. We came after a 5-day voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. My parents were the only ones in their families who survived World War II. And they came to America for one thing, opportunity and freedom. And they felt that coming to America was going to end the nightmare that they suffered through during World War II. That there wouldn't be a knock at the door taking them or their children away from them and never to be seen again. So we came to America in 1949 to become Americans, learn English, and participate in the American dream. And my father began working in a pencil factory at $1 an hour. And for $1 an hour, he was able to feed and clothe and house us, the 4 of us. And 5 years later, they went to Lower Manhattan, raised their right hands, and became United States citizens. And I was the most nervous 7-year-old in America that day. Because they told me they had to take a test to become a U.S. citizen. They had to know who the first president of the United States was, and what the Constitution said. And when they came home, they said, we are now U.S. citizens. And boy, did I have a sigh of relief that day, not knowing if we were going to be deported, if they failed their test. So they became United States citizens. And in June 1959, they took me to Lower Manhattan when I was 12 years old. I raised my right hand, took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States, and became a United States citizen. nearly 20 years later, after learning about the Constitution, the Declaration, and the Bill of Rights, I was at an economics conference with the late, great Murray Rothbard, economist, philosopher, and historian, who we all deeply miss. And during one of the breaks at the conference, he told me, remember, the late 70s, he said, there is a congressman from Texas who really knows economics. That's really knows economics, really understands foreign policy, and really takes seriously his oath to uphold the Constitution. I said, what's his name? He said, Ron Paul. And so a couple of years later, I was able to meet Dr. Paul at a conference in Washington, D.C., and have been a supporter ever since. Because in my lifetime, I can say with 100% certainty, he's the only official in Washington, D.C. who's been faithful to his oath to uphold the Constitution. And let's go a little further down the timeline, 1989. What was so great about 1989? The free market economists, Ludwig von Mises, Murray Rothbard, Hayek, and the rest of them said that socialism was doomed. And guess what? We saw the collapse of the Berlin Wall, the liberation of Eastern Europe, and 2 years later we saw the collapse of the Soviet Union. When the pundits in the United States, the land of the free, said the Soviet Union was invincible, they couldn't be defeated. But they were defeated without one American firing a shot. Collectivism on a grand scale doesn't work, and we know that collectivism on a small scale doesn't work. Mitt Romney may say that Obamacare is bad, but Romney cares no better in Massachusetts. Let's go forward to 1999. The 90s were a period of prosperity, but underneath that prosperity there was a false prosperity, similar to what happened in the 1920s, as Murray Rothbard chronicles in America's Great Depression. In 1999, the dot-com bubble was bursting because Alan Greenspan and the Fed kept pumping money into the economy, hoping to stimulate the economy even more than naturally. And Dr. Paul and others warned about it as he returned to Congress. And then a few years later, he warned about the housing bubble. That low interest rates by Mr. Greenspan was going to cause another problem in the economy. So we got back-to-back bubbles that the Austrian economists and free market economists were warning about. And Ron Paul said this on the floor of the Congress almost daily. Go back to C-SPAN and watch. And he was warning the American people and warning his colleagues in Congress, you cannot create prosperity with funny money. And so what happened? We got back-to-back bubbles, and then the tragedy hit on September 11, 2001. And that has a special time in my mind because that was the last time I spoke to my father. He died 2 weeks later. And on September 11, 2001, we had a horrific attack in America. But instead of going after the perpetrators, the administration at that time decided to launch a war, a preemptive war, which didn't go after the perpetrators in Iraq, but instead has bled us dry to the tune of trillions of dollars, every one of which has been borrowed from around the world. So, what propelled Dr. Paul to enter this great arena called the American political scene? Well, something that happened 40 years ago last month, when President Richard Nixon declared the United States government bankrupt when he took us off the gold standard. He said, foreigners, you have a legal right to get your gold, but guess what? We are renouncing that right. And what's happened since then? The dollar has lost 80% of its purchasing power, and we're subject to these wild swings in the economy, wild stock market swings, and here we are today, still in another recession.
And the Fed!
And the Fed is right. Office was what Richard Nixon did in 1971. And I was concerned because I was starting to learn economics and finance at the time also. And that's when I realized that all these free market economists around President Nixon, wearing their Adam Smith ties, were a bunch of hypocrites because they imposed wage price controls, they devalued the dollar, and said everything was going to be fine. Well, it is not fine. The welfare warfare state has continued for the last 40 years, and we have a $15 trillion debt, a $1.4 trillion deficit, a stagnant economy, rising prices, endless wars. And it's not because of Ron Paul's ideas have been implemented in Washington, D.C. It's because the Ivy League economists have been advising people in D.C. Spend money that you don't have, borrow that money that you don't have, print money endlessly, spend money, regulate the economy, create wars overseas. And what we have for the past 40 years or more is a choice between a Republican welfare warfare state and a Democrat welfare warfare state. This has to stop, and today we begin that long march to restore the Constitution. As an academic and as a fearless pundit from Fort Lee, I've been warning about this for more than 35 years, the same time Ron Paul got into Congress. And I can say with 100% certainty, if he is not elected, America will still slide because none of the major presidential candidates, nor the incumbent, knows how to diagnose the problem. The problem is trickle-down economics. Money coming from the Federal Reserve to the banks and eventually to us, maybe. Spending from Washington coming down to us, maybe. But Ron Paul has been there saying that the welfare warfare state is harmful to the economy. He's been saying it for more than 40 years. And why has he been ignored? He's been ignored because of the political and financial elite don't want the gravy train to stop. One of the great quotes from the 19th century, which symbolizes, which epitomizes what's wrong with America, was by Horace Greeley, the New York City publisher, who said, "The darkest hour of a man's life when he sits down to plan how to get money without earning it." That captures what's wrong with America today. The Wall Street bankers want money without earning it. The farmers, the big agribusinesses want money without earning it. The military-industrial complex want to take money and have wars all over America. We need to stop this incredible race for other people's money. This is the defining issue in America for the past 100 years. And Dr. Paul has been upfront and saying all about this. And the other issue that is really critical, as someone who's taken his oath many times when he went to Congress, he's a foremost defender of American civil liberties. Today, we have legal sexual assaults at our nation's airports because of the TSA in the name of security. Not only has Ron Paul been out front on this issue, but Senator Doherty has been the key champion here in the state of New York. Yesterday, my wife and I stopped by the Fort Lee Historic Park, where there's an exhibit of the American Revolution and how Fort Lee was integral in the American Revolution. And it showed a little exhibit about General Washington retreating from Fort Lee across New Jersey, across the Delaware River in order to save his troops so they can fight another day. Well, Ron Paul has fought, and we're here to fight another day. We are not going to retreat. We're going to advance for liberty in America. Think about what the pundits, the he can't win crowd is saying about Ron Paul. He's foursquare for civil liberties. He's foursquare for free enterprise. He's foursquare for a limited government. He's foursquare for a balanced budget at much lower level, as opposed to these other pseudo-patriots who say we're going to have a balanced budget, but at today's level. He's also a man of peace and honor and integrity. So think of the people who are opposing Ron Paul. They're in favor of what? Less civil liberties in America. They're in favor of unbalanced budgets at lower levels. They're in favor of the military-industrial complex. They're in favor of endless wars which are draining our economy.
That's right.
And killing our children and causing mayhem overseas. And then people wonder why people overseas don't like the American government. They love America, but they don't like the American government. Ironically,
neither do we.
It's the Vietnamese that love America the most. We have an incredible opportunity in our lifetime, which we haven't had in a long, long time, to elect somebody who's going to take that oath of office on January 20th, 2013, and say without a shadow of hesitancy that he will defend the Constitution of the United States. That will mean the motto of New Jersey will now be the motto of the United States: liberty and prosperity. Thank you very much.